Hi everyone, it's May here. I apologize for my voice. I am a little bit sick at the time of this recording, but I really wanted just to get this down. Anyway, this is the second part to my character design series, which is the sketch. This will be in two parts. The first part will be just the portrait sketch, and the second part will be the outfit sketch. Now, this specific video will be just the portrait. I will have a link to the concept design, which is the previous video, and the link to part 2, or I guess phase 2, which is the outfit sketch, whenever it does come out. Let's get started with what I believe are the 7 foundations of what makes each person look different. Now, some of these parts have like subunits, but I believe there's 7 main parts of the face that makes you look different and each character look different. This isn't like a tutorial, like it's more like I will explain how I use each of these features for my character. So the first part is the forehead. Within the forehead, there are 3 parts that can vary: the roundness, and the size, and the placement. And when I talk about placement, I'm talking about both when you're looking left to right, when you're looking forward, and then also left to right, like the depth of the forehead itself, how far it comes out from the face. And then I just want to have like an additional note that a little subunit of the forehead is the hairline, and the hairline is what kind of defines the size of your forehead. Number 2, eyebrows. Now there's a lot. I believe there's 5 different parts to this. There's size, placement, shape, texture, and angle. Size, so basically how big your eyebrows are. Placement is basically like how far from the eyes it is. So up, down, maybe left, right. Maybe your eyebrows aren't uniform or they're not symmetrical. So with shape, you have basically the arch. So do you have like straight eyebrows, or do you have angled eyebrows, soft eyebrows? That's what I mean by shape. Angle, so that's kind of self-explanatory. Like is the middle of your eyebrows going downwards as if like you're angry, or is it more upturned as if you're kind of like sad? Like, I know this is more reference to kind of like expressions, but the eyebrows still, they do have a natural resting position, just the way that your face is. And then the last one is texture. So texture can include like density of the eyebrows. Do you have sparse hairs, or do you have fluffy, dense eyebrows? Number 3, eyes. I believe there are 4 parts to it. There's size, placement, shape, and then details. And when I talk about details, I'm talking about stuff like whether you have like a monolid or a double lid, or you have a hooded eye, but that deals more with like shape. But other details like, oh, do you have like an eye bag or something like that, or wrinkles? And then a subunit to eyes is irises, which I don't like to make the iris as a separate portion, mostly because my style lies more on the realistic side, so there's not really much to differ in terms of the size of irises. But if you were to venture more towards the anime route, then you would probably have differing irises. But for the most part, with my style, the irises stay the same. Number 4, nose. So I feel like the nose can be divided into 2 parts, 2 subunits, each with their own differing things. The first part, or first unit, is the bridge, which can differ with height and width. And then there's the tip of the nose, like the bottom half, which can either be round or pointed. Number 5, cheek. I believe there are 2 parts to this. The placement, so whether you have high or low cheekbones, and roundness, which is basically, are your cheeks filled out? Do you have a little fat, or are they hollowed out? Number 6, lips. Now I believe lips, they do have a top and the bottom, so I'll count those as like 2 different subunits. And the 4 things that I feel like can define it are size, placement, shape, and details. So size is kind of self-explanatory. The size is basically how big are your lips. The placement is how high or low, or for some reason left or right, your lips are. Shape, so basically are they plump or are they kind of like small? And this is different from size, because size refers to the whole lip as a total, how much space it takes in the face, versus the shape, which is the actual like outline of the lip itself. And the last thing for the lips is details. So stuff like, do you have like a little line that, like for example, Angelina Jolie's middle line down her bottom lip, do you have a cupid's bow? So stuff like that. And then some people have like extra fat on some parts of their lips. Number 7, chin/jaw. So chin is just the center of your face, so I like to include it in the jaw because it's literally the bottom part of your face. The 4 things that I feel like define the chin and the jaw is the placement, the detail, the definition, and the shape. Now the placement is kind of self-explanatory. Basically how high or low your chin and jaw is kind of defines whether you have a long face or a short face. Stuff like detail is like, do you have stuff like a butt chin? And then definition is basically like is your jawline defined or is it round? And then last is shape. So this is more towards like whenever you're facing forward at the camera, how round or how V-shape is your face, or how square. So those are the 7 features that I believe that can differ from person to person, and you can literally have a reference for each little subunit and feature that I described with these 7 parts. But for the most part in this video, I'll just be using one reference, and I'll be bringing up different pictures so that I can show you what I mean when I sketch. But yeah, just a reminder, this isn't a detail on how to differ each of these. This is just more how I analyze someone else's face, like another reference, so that I can apply it to my sketch. So in this picture, I use Kim Chaewon from the Sserafim as the sole reference. And I'm sorry if I said her name wrong, or I'm trying my best. But yeah, in this video, just as I did in the concept video, I will cut parts of it. You might see parts of the sketch already done, some other parts not done yet, because I want to be able to showcase each of these features in detail, because I don't always approach the sketch the same way for each character. Let's start with the first feature, the forehead. Now, despite the forehead being covered by her bangs, I still draw the forehead just to see the overall anatomy, like to just have a proper anatomy of the head, so I can see how much spacing to put in relative to other parts of the face. And in terms of the forehead, I would actually say that Chaewon kind of has a relatively larger than average forehead. And for the shape, I would say her forehead is pretty round, at least when you see from the side. So that is what I give for HuiYing. And then for the subunit for the hairline, just like the forehead, I also, even though it's being covered by the bangs, I draw it just so that I can see the size of the forehead in relation to other parts of the face. Number 2, eyebrows. So with the placement, I would say it's about average distance from the eyes. And I would say this for the shape, Chaewon kind of has straight-ish eyebrows with like a slight curve, just very slight. In terms of the angle, I would say that I don't think Chaewon has downward eyebrows towards the middle, but I gave that to HuiYing just a little bit because she is supposed to have a stoic face, like a stoic expression at all times, and doesn't move that much, and she's supposed to look a little bit angered. So, as I call the RBF, she's supposed to have that. So I gave that to her. And for the size, I would just say average eyebrows. And when I say average for these kind of things, it's mostly because I've been looking at many references of different faces. So to me, this is kind of average. Average might differ from people to people. The last part is texture. So I don't really see a lot of Chaewon's eyebrows because her eyebrows are being covered for the most part, but for HuiYing, I wanted to give her specifically fluffy, dense eyebrows because I personally like that, so I just give that to my characters in general. On to the third part, eyes. So I would say that Chaewon has relatively smaller eyes, so I gave that to HuiYing as well. In terms of placement, I would say that the eyes are her eyes are pretty shallow, like it's closer to the surface of the face compared to sunken eyes, and they're angled downwards towards the middle ever so slightly, so it looks like she kind of has like upturned eyes. And then in terms of shape, I gave her almond shaped eyes as seen from the reference, and then just small details that I see through the eyes. She has a small double lid and then agiosol. I hope I said that right, but that's basically like the fat under the eye. So the agiosol is kind of the small eye detail that I would include, but I don't include it in the sketch, mostly because if I put it in the sketch, it kind of looks like eye wrinkles. So I just wait until I do the painting. Now for the sub-unit for the iris, honestly it's mostly just color. So HuiYing has greenish / hazel eyes, just depending on the lighting. So that's the eyes. Part 4, the nose. So I don't fully showcase the entire nose, mostly because that's just the way that I sketch, but I will go into more detail when I do the actual portrait rendering with the color and everything. But as for the nose, I'm just going to talk about what I see in the reference, and so this is how I try to apply it to my sketch. So in terms of the bridge, I feel like Chaewon has kind of like a soft nose bridge. So I try to do I think of like a small sloping line that when it's viewed from 3/4 point of view, it's kind of closer to the middle rather than further from the middle, just to show that there's like a low nose bridge. And then for the bottom part of the nose, the bottom half, I noticed that Chaewon kind of has she has a round, small, flat nose. So that is also what I try to give HuiYing. Part 5, the cheek. Also, this is hard to show in the sketch too, but I will try to mention it. I would say that Chaewon has relatively high cheekbones. It's hard to show the cheekbones without having all the shading and everything. So that's why I can't go into too much detail in the sketch, but I can later when I do the painting. In terms of roundness, I would say that the cheekbone's kind of round at the top. It's like kind of softish. So that is what I apply to HuiYing in this sketch. Part 6, lips. Again, this is something that's also not fully shown during the sketch, at least in my process of sketching. Anybody else's process of sketching, you can choose to show all of these small details that I include. For me personally, I don't show these because I like to paint them in. So, number 1, size. So I noticed in the reference that Chaewon has kind of relatively smaller lips. I prefer for my characters to also have small lips, but I like to make them look large for my kind of style. I'll have to show this later, but I guess for my kind of style, my lips tend to look smaller, mostly because that's just anime style. In terms of placement, I would say it's kind of like average placement, but when looking from the side, I like to give HuiYing pouty lips, so from the side it would look more pouty. I wouldn't say that so much about Chaewon.
Only this big! How many diapers could he possibly use? Oh, that's not so much. So? I had no idea. What kind of father am I?
But I know that for HuiYing, her lips tend to look more pouty. Shape. So I like to say that I can't speak for Chaewon, but I like for HuiYing to have very plump and very, very round lips, like full lips. And it is not shown in the sketch, but when I do paint it, I do like to show it. For details of HuiYing's lips, I like to say that she has a cupid's bow and that she kind of has a natural frown to her lip. Number 7, jaw / chin. Placement. So in terms of placement, I noticed that Chaewon kind of has a smaller jaw / chin, and it's kind of closer, like in relation to other parts of her face, so it kind of gives her a smaller face. So I also give that to HuiYing. In terms of shape, Chaewon also kind of has a V-shape face, and it's kind of small, so just entirely just the bottom part of her face is small. And in terms of definition, I would say that she has a very defined jawline. Like when you just look from her from the side, you can clearly see that jawline. And then for details, there's no really details on the chins that I decided to add. So those are the 7 features that I personally believe can differ from person to person or from character to character. So now we can move on to just other miscellaneous stuff. So stuff like hair. So obviously hair will differ from person to person. So I will give it its own set of categories that I believe can differ as well. I like to think that there are 3 parts to drawing the hair. Number 1, style of hair, which also includes length. And within style of hair, I believe there are 3 parts, like actual physical parts in the head or part of the hair that I believe deserve its own little separate thing. So number 1, the front part of the hair. This can include bangs, fringes, and parting. Number 2, the side of your hair. So basically I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to be basically just be going around the head. So I believe the sides can also have its own little style. And then the last part is the back of the head. So this is the one that you typically can't see. I know some people like to just divide it into your front and back hair, but to give the illusion of 3D, I like to have the side and the back as separate. The second part to drawing hair is the texture. So within texture, there are 3 subunits, which I will go over. So the first part being if you have straight, wavy, or curly hair. And what I mean by this is, you know, the chart where it has like the 1A up to 4C hair, where it goes straight, wavy, curly, kinky, or coily. Number 2 is the shininess of the hair. Like, is it frizzy or is it shiny? Or do you have parts of your hair that are shiny, like your roots, and then the ends of your hair being dead and frizzy? And then the third part is volume. So basically, how poofy is your hair? How far does it extend from the center of your head out and away? So the third part to differing hair, which it cannot be shown in sketch unless you do shading of some sort, is the color. So yeah, again, not shown in the sketch, but stuff like, do you have uniform color throughout your head or throughout your hair? Or do you have like an ombre, or do you have highlights, other parts of your hair being colored? So those are the 3 parts for how I think of hair and how they can differ from person to person. So I will go over how each of these differ, at least for my character, HuiYing. So we can start with the first part, which is the hairstyle. So for the front, she has bangs, and I like to think of them as the hime haircut. You know, like the Japanese princess haircut, where it's straight across the forehead, or straight across, you know, like right below the eyebrows, along with the 2 framing side pieces. That is the hime haircut, and I like to give that to HuiYing. In terms of the side of her head, I made it so that the side hair is just tucked behind her ear. And then for the back, I basically just gave her like a short bob that has like a slight curve to the front. In terms of texture, so for her hair, she has, like, I call it the curl factor, but she has no curls. At least when her hair is short like this, it's just basically 1A in the front, maybe 2A/3A to the side. In the back, since the bob itself does curve, but that might just be because of the shape of the head. And then in terms of reflectiveness, she has somewhat shiny hair. And then for volume, I would like to say that the bangs is relatively thin versus the back of the head, where it's much thicker. And then in terms of color, it's not shown obviously, but she does have black hair. She does have pink dyed hair underneath. I'm not sure what that style is called, I just call it under dye. So that's it for hair. I don't want to go to the different parts of the outfits, mostly because it's kind of obvious that outfits will differ from character to character, but I do have an explanation provided in the concept video, which again, the link is in the description below. So I believe rendering outfits, in my personal opinion, there's not one way to do it. It requires a lot of patience and a lot of references, especially if you have no idea how to draw clothes, like me. So you can actually see the references that I pull out in those concept video. But another miscellaneous thing is that there are 2 different sketches or sets of sketches, one from when she's talking and versus when she's not talking. And that's because I used this portrait as a reactive for D&D, so whenever I talk, it shows a certain expression, and whenever I'm not talking, it shows a different expression. In conclusion, I hope this helped you guys. I hope understanding my thought process helps you in your endeavors for whenever you do your character design and how you approach your sketches. So yeah, this is the first part, or I guess this is the first phase of the second part, because this is just the portrait. And again, I will make a similar commentary, but for the outfit sketch. And unfortunately, that will come out next year. But yeah, at the time this is released, you won't see the second part until next year. So if you're watching this in 2022, have a happy holiday, a good year. God, this is so awkward. Sorry, I don't have a script for this, so I'm very awkward when I have to freestyle shit. Anyway, again, link down below. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!